B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. Okay, reviewing what we did last week a little bit, which is halachot of the 3 weeks, which start from the 17th of Tammuz until all the way to the 9th of Av, which is 3 weeks to be exact. Now, 17th of Tammuz this year was on Shabbat, this past Shabbat. Therefore, it got postponed to Sunday. The Ta'anit was on Sunday. Now, starting Sunday until the 9th of Av, which is going to be August 11th, right? This year, the Ta'anit of Ta'anit is going to be August 11th. 9th of Av is August 10th, but because it's Shabbat, it's postponed to Sunday again. So Sunday is the fast, right? Until then, there's certain minhagim, there's certain customs, and there's certain precautions, there's certain things that we do not do. So, but they are cut into, especially for Sephardim, it's cut into 3 different lapses. You have, in these 3 weeks, you have from the 17th of Tammuz until Rosh Chodesh Av, starting from the first day of the month of Av. That's one. And then you have from Rosh Chodesh Av until the week of the 9th of Av, which means, let's say, 9th of Av is on a Thursday. From Rosh Chodesh Av, the first day of Av, until that Saturday is called from Rosh Chodesh Av until then. And then from that Saturday until the 9th of Av, which is until Thursday, is what we call the week of the 9th, right? So it's cut down in these 3 different sections, and each section has its own minhagim, customs, and refrainments. There's things that we don't do from now. There's things that we start not doing from the beginning of Chodesh Av, the month of Av, and there's things that we don't do the week of Av. Now, the way it works out this year is that we don't have the week of Av, because the 9th of Av is, like we said, Shabbat, which gets postponed to Sunday. So there is no week of the 9th of Av. It's just Sunday is the Ta'anit. So there's a whole bunch of customs that we don't have this year. Like, for instance, haircuts and shaving and things like that, you're allowed to do this year, all the way until 9th of Av, because Sephardim only don't shave and get haircuts the week of Av. So this year we don't have the week of the 9th. Since we don't have the week of the 9th this year, we don't have those minhagim, right? So let's go quickly some of the things that we said last week, and then we'll take it from there. Now, to get a little background about the 3 weeks, why does the 3 weeks start from the 17th of Av? Because there were certain things that happened in history to the Jewish people on the 17th of Av. Number one was that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first luchot, the first tablets, on the 17th of Av. I'm sorry. 17th of Tammuz. Thank you for listening. Such a blessing. From 17th of Tammuz was the date that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first luchot. 17th of Tammuz was the time that the Tamid offering was canceled during the first temple period. That means the regular sacrifice that was brought on the altar was canceled. 17th of Tammuz was the day that they put an image, an idol inside the Hachal, inside the Beit HaMikdash. And 17th of Tammuz was when Yerushalayim got surrounded, was under siege. So these things happen on the 17th. And therefore, starting from the 17th, obviously when the siege started on the 17th, then they broke down the wall, and then it took 3 weeks until they got inside the Beit HaMikdash, and then they burnt it down from the 9th until the 10th. So therefore, these 3 weeks have always been Yemei Pur'anut for our enemies. It's not been such happy times for the Jewish people. Because of that, we have certain customs. There's certain things that we hold to during these times, and certain precautions that we take during these times. Why? I don't want to get into the Kabbalistics of it, but these 3 weeks, it's best for a person to be a Jew to be careful, to say the least, right? Because it's not It hasn't in history been such okay times for Bnei Israel. This year, Bezrat Hashem, it'll be Yeshuot v'Nechamot, it'll be Mazal Tov for everyone. But we also have to understand that you shouldn't take risks, right? So if you have scheduled like bungee jumping or something like that, cancel it, right? Even if you've scheduled it for afterwards, please cancel it. Don't ever do bungee jumping. Please. I don't know how people have the guts to do these things, okay? These days people have fears of even getting on planes. I don't know how people get on planes and actually jump off. I honestly don't understand it. But, okay. Some guys actually, Rabbi, you don't understand. It's such a rush. I'm like, get married. Really. If you need taking risks every day, trust me. Get married. Leave your socks on the floor. You will feel such a rush. Seriously. You'll be sitting at work and be like, I think she found it now. I think she found the socks. Trust me. You don't need to bungee jump to feel the rush. Get married. Anyway, on a lighter note. So, things that we don't do during the 3 weeks when they start are as follows. One second. They are. So we do not say Shechianu during the 3 weeks. We do not make Shechianu, meaning if you bought new clothes, like something that has Shechianu, not just a t-shirt or whatever. We're talking about like suits, expensive shoes, things like that have Shechianu. We don't make Shechianu during the 3 weeks. Now, if it's just the beginning of the 3 weeks, if it comes on Shabbat, let's say you just bought a new suit. You want to make Shechianu, you wait for Friday afternoon right before Shabbat, and you make your Shechianu. Even during Shabbat, you wear your suit, you make Shechianu on it, so that it's L'chvot Shabbat. There's a new fruit. We, living in Los Angeles, do not understand the meaning of new fruits, right? Because we're kind of like all seasonal here. But the rest of the world doesn't really work like this. There is places in the world where they don't have watermelon all year round. Okay, they literally don't. Watermelon is seasonal. It comes summertime, they have watermelon. Wintertime, they don't have watermelon. Like I tell my wife, I'd rather it be the same way for us, because throughout the year, you can't even eat that watermelon. It doesn't even taste like watermelon half the time anyway, because it's like, God knows what it is, like genetically induced, like, be watermelon. It's like, it's not watermelon, it's something else. It sounds amazing when you go to Eilat Market and you tap it, then you bring it home, you open it, it's like, wah, wah. So, things like that would have Shechianu. So, during the 3 weeks, we don't make Shechianu, even on fruits. However, when it comes on Shabbat, you make the Shechianu even on fruits. Music. During the 3 weeks, we do not listen to music. Now, someone asked me this past week, can we listen to Jewish music during the 3 weeks? Can we listen to music of Kedusha, of holiness? So I answered, we're only talking about Jewish music here. Non-Jewish music in itself has so many issues I can't even get into. That in itself, if you hear what the Rambam says, I remember when I was a kid, I grew up with my friends, Biko Robertson, so we had, 80s music, 90s music, So like I used to walk around with a Walkman. I know you guys don't know what that is. It's not a man that you walk with. It was a device, like a CD player. Okay? So I used to walk around with that with music in my ear. And I remember one of my rabbis sat me down and he's like, Yitzchak, come here. And he ruined my life forever. He's like, I want to show you something. I'm like, whoa, what is it, Rabbi? He sat me down, opened the Rambam, Maimonides, and he showed me inside what the Maimonides says about listening to non-Jewish music. Believe it or not, that's how old it is. Rambam is from 900 years ago. It's nothing new, right? So the Rambam writes that music is something that penetrates the soul, the neshama of a person. Music is a very, very spiritual thing. It's not just like tunes. They played music in the Beit HaMikdash every day. It was a thing. The Levim had a job. I mean, some of our prophets got their first prophecy during the playing of music by the Kohanim and by the Levi'im. It was so beautiful. They became so spiritualized through it, like literally a spiritual high. They got prophecy through it just by listening to music. We all know music can do that, right? So therefore, the Rambam says a person has to be careful what kind of music you're listening to, because it's literally going right into your neshama. It changes things. I don't think anybody disagrees with that these days, because you see all these kids that listen to rap music day in, day out, and compare them to someone that's listening to Mozart every day. I mean, you could pretty much tell the difference, right? Music can change the mood. You put sad music, you cry. You put happy music, you'll be happy, you'll be jumpy, you'll be dancing. Music does that to a person. Therefore, not listening to music is all sorts of music, especially the 3 weeks, but even non-Jewish music, which throughout the year a person should try to refrain from. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Find out we can listen to acapella music because it doesn't have a.
Right. So acapella music, it doesn't have, because acapella does not have, technically, doesn't have musical instruments, right? The problem is with musical instruments. So because it doesn't have musical instruments, it's a loophole. Yeah, you could. Right, because they're basically like doing things with their mouths. Now, as I explained last week, why do we have these minhagim? Why do we have these customs? These customs were put in place by the Chachamim as a mourning period, so that we can contemplate what we lost. We've lost a lot. We don't recognize what we've lost. In order for us to understand what we've lost, we have to picture, being a prince in a palace, being served every day the greatest foods, being taken out, getting massages and saunas every single day on a daily basis, having the life, right? And then going from that to becoming a cab driver. You have your own car, you drive, it's a nice car, right? You drive people around, you're making a living, and you're comfortable with that living, only because you've forgotten what it used to be like. Because let's say you got, dementia or something. You've forgotten where you came from. So everyone asks you, how you doing? You're like, I'm good, I got a nice car, I drive people around, I'm Uber, I'm making some money, But someone that actually recognizes you comes to you and goes, you do know people used to bow down to you, right? Like people used to drive you around. You do understand that you never did work for anybody, right? That's who we were when we had the Beit HaMikdash. We didn't serve anyone. All the nations of the world served the Jews not as slaves, but they served the Jews, meaning they understood that the Jewish people are the chosen nation and they need to be where they are in order for everyone in the world to be happy and prosperous. The Jews have to bring their sacrifices on time. They have to do their prayers on time. Why? Because we're going to have a good life because of it. Because they're praying for us. They're doing this for us, right? So we basically had the life. And then all of that was shattered. We got thrown out of our homes, and we got exiled into 4 corners of the earth. But in these 4 corners of the earth, we've become comfortable, right? It's like taking medication and being comfortable taking medication. And a doctor could come and tell you, like, listen, you actually shouldn't be taking this stuff. You should be healthy without it. But we're getting used to it, right? So we're used to this life of, I got my car, I got my house, but knock, knock, knock. Bro, you're supposed to be living in a palace, not a house. Like you're supposed to be. So because of that, because our rabbis knew that there's going to be a time that we're going to get comfortable and we're going to forget who we actually are, they put these things in place as reminders. At least once a year, remind yourself of the losses that we've had, so that when Hashem sees that you so long for it, you still remember it, we'll have it back soon. They say, it's very famous about Napoleon. Napoleon was a genius. That's why I like the cake called Napoleon, because it's a cake of geniuses. If you don't like Napoleons, you're not a genius. Napoleon was once walking by a synagogue, and he hears the Jews in the synagogue crying and sitting on the floor in sackcloth. And he turns to his one of his generals that was with him and goes, go find out what happened. I didn't hear anything happen to the Jews. because he made sure that the Jews were comfortable, right? Go find out what's going on. So he goes in, and it was on the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, the day of the destruction of the temple. Comes back, and he goes, Sir, they're crying about the destruction of their temple and the massacre of their people, things like that. So he goes, who? When? What do you mean? I didn't hear about this. So he goes, that's the thing. It happened like 1,500 years ago. They're still crying. He smiles about it. Napoleon says, and these are his famous words. He says, don't laugh. A people that till this day, thousands of years later, still cries for that loss is guaranteed to regain it. That's what Napoleon says. And it's true. That's why we do it. That's why we have all these minhagim. On Tisha B'Av, we don't wear regular leather shoes. We don't, someone once asked me. I said, like on Tisha B'Av, just like Yom Kippur, we don't wash our hands fully. We only wash the fingers. We don't wash our face during the Tanit. We only wash our eyes. And we don't wear leather shoes. Someone came to me once. He's like, Rabbi, seriously, what's going to happen if I wash my whole hand? What's going to happen? What happened? So I looked at him and I said, absolutely nothing. Nothing's going to happen. But you see, that's the sad part. Nothing. The fact that you're asking that question means that you don't understand what we've lost. Because if you understood it, you wouldn't think it's some kind of heebie-jeebie Kabbalistic. It's not. It's just as a reminder that, you know what? I should be so sad right now, I shouldn't even have the hose to go and wash my whole hand. I shouldn't even have the energy to want to wash my face. I want to just sit somewhere and cry because I shouldn't be here. That's how we should feel. So that's what I said to a cappella music. It's 3 weeks. If you pass out, guarantee, put music in your ears so you don't pass out. And I give you a heter to actually put real music with no a cappella, actual instruments. If you think you're going to pass out, guaranteed you won't pass out. 3 weeks, not listening to any kind of music, it'll help us regain, hopefully, at least the knowledge of, I wish we had the Beit HaMikdash today. I wish Israel, there was peace around the world. It's for everyone's good. Right? So these minhagim are in place for that. Someone doesn't do them, they're stepping on the minhagim of Am Yisrael, which are like Torah, right? But at the same time, it's something bigger. They're not understanding the bigger picture. That's where our unity comes in. Jews are united in a sense of simcha and sometimes, unfortunately, sorrow. But we need to still stay united. Everywhere in the world has the same minhag. When it comes to this, I read an article last year for a group about Ethiopian Jews that came to Israel for the first time. I read this is recent, in the past 25 to 30 years. Ethiopians, they were in a village, they didn't even know anything about the outside world. They were Jews, they knew that they were Jews, they were told by their parents and ancestors, great-great-grandfathers, that they were Jews. They had Jewish customs. They still did the sacrifices in Ethiopia. They brought sacrifices, they brought korbanot, they knew the laws of some of the korbanot. They didn't know that the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. They had no idea. And this is a young man writing about his first experience as he comes off the plane, goes to visit the Beit HaMikdash, and he's faced with a Western wall. And he says him and his family, for the first time, tore their clothing in mourning. That's how it should be. Because he said, we didn't know. All this time we were waiting to go to the temple. God's going to bring us back to our temple. We were told stories from our grandparents, great-grandparents about this temple that we're finally going to be reunited with. They had no idea that it was destroyed. You read this article, I guarantee you'll be sobbing. Because this guy wrote it so real. He was like, you're mimicking it. I lived it. It's like, I mourned it. Because I was so looking forward to finally coming to the temple, not knowing that it's just going to be a Western wall that's going to be left from it. That's what we should feel when it comes to these 3 weeks. That's why we have these minhagim. I think I went a little bit off topic now, but it's okay. All right. So now listening to music. However, if you're in a mall, there's music going on. You're in an elevator, there's music going on. You're in a gym, there's music going on. That's fine. You're not listening to it. If you're running a camp and you need to play music for the children to dance and walk around or jump around, that's fine also. If you're a music teacher and you need to teach for a parnasah, you could do that as well. It's best to stop on the week of Tisha B'Av. But the rest of the time, you could still teach music. If you're a part of a band, that it's your parnasah, you do things for weddings or you're a DJ, that's your parnasah. You're allowed to do it up to the week of Tisha B'Av. Those things you can do.
What about this year?
This year, then all the way up to up to the day, you can do it. Dancing. We said dancing, even without music, a person should refrain from. Again, anything that brings too much happiness. However, this does not mean the person, you got to be gloomy all day long. That's not how a Jew lives. Because mitzvah gedolah, liot besimcha tamid. It's a mitzvah to always be besimcha, to always be joyous, to always be happy. You have to always be happy and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu besimcha. That never leaves. However, it's just extra simcha that we shouldn't have these 3 weeks. When Shabbat comes, all rules aside. On Shabbat, we have a mitzvah to be extra happy. So you got to sing. Singing, by the way, your own voice, singing the 3 weeks, the whole 3 weeks is allowed. Right? That's fine, singing. On Shabbat especially, we should sing. Zebirot Shabbat, Shalom Aleichem, everything with simcha, with jumping up and down. That's Shabbat. Once Shabbat is over, then we go back to those same minhagim. Weddings. So minhag of Ashkenaz is that they do not have weddings during the 3 weeks, starting from the beginning of the 3 weeks all the way to the Shabbat. Sephardim, however, we go according to the Maran Shulchan Aruch, which for weddings, because it's a mitzvah, you're allowed to do weddings all the way up to Rosh Chodesh Av. That's when, which means you pretty much have 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks, that you could have weddings. And actually, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was very adamant about this because in the beginning in Israel, years ago, Israel's Chachamim, most of the chief rabbis were of Ashkenazic descent, and even the rabbis that were Sephardim, they worked under the Ashkenazic rabbis, so they respected them, and out of respect, they did not change any of these customs. So when a Jew wanted to get married in Israel, in Tel Aviv, when they wanted to do their wedding in a wedding hall, they wouldn't do it for them because the weddings happen over there under the rabbinate, right? They wouldn't do it for them in those 3 weeks. Rabbi Ovadia was the one who changed all of that, sending letters to all the rabbis and said, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the way our minhagim were always, and we're not breaking any rules or anything like that. We should be able to get married. And Rabbi Ovadia was very adamant because it's such a big mitzvah to get married as soon as possible. When a person's single, you don't exist yet. It's such a big mitzvah to get married. Therefore, you don't prolong it. When you have a chance, don't use chumrot. Don't use stringencies to block that. Use any kind of possibilities to make it happen. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch holds. Maran Shulchan Aruch, Sephardic authority, held that you're allowed to get married. So Sephardim do get married in these 3 weeks. Right? With music, with a full throttle. No stops. Okay, so now all the way to Rosh Chodesh Av. Now once Rosh Chodesh Av starts, beginning of the month of Av, we have new customs that we go into. So as we say, Misha nichnas Av ma'atim besimcha, which means whenever we say it for Purim, we say Misha nichnas Adar marbim besimcha. Once the month of Adar starts, we escalate the simcha. But for Chodesh Menachem Av, we say mema'atim besimcha, which means we lower the amount of simcha that we have. So, Shechianu. When we said before that we don't say Shechianu now, So we said the only time you could say Shechianu would be on Shabbat. Let's say you have new clothing or you want to do it for Shabbat. When Rosh Chodesh Av starts, even on Shabbat, we don't make Shechianu on new clothing. However, for fruits, we still can. If there's a new fruit that came to the market and you haven't had it for that year, then you could make Shechianu on that on Shabbat. That still stays. If a person has mishpat, if a person has a court case with a non-Jew, if a Jew has a court case with a non-Jew, right? Do not set the date as much as you can for it to be from Rosh Chodesh Av until the 9th of Av. Do whatever you can to make it afterwards. It's not good for a Jew and a non-Jew to have any court case against each other during this time. Again, it's not okay time for Jews. So leave it after or before, right? If a person has some kind of scheduled surgery, that they need to do, if it could be postponed, postpone it. If it's a danger to his life, chas v'shalom, then he should ask a Rav. And definitely would have to go through with it because they have to do emergency. But if it's not and it could be changed, then change it to another time so that it shouldn't be in the 9 days, which we call, in Persian, we call it Noi, right? It's from the number 9. So the 9 days, it's from Rosh Chodesh Av. Light bulb. It's from the Rosh Chodesh Av until the 9th, right? Now, any buying and any deals that you're doing for a simcha, like for instance, buying things for Chatan and Kala, or the Chatan and Kala are going shopping for their wedding, you should do less of that. As much as you can, you should minimize that and leave it for afterwards. You shouldn't do that once Rosh Chodesh Av starts. Like for instance, in this time, for sure, the Chatan should not buy any like jewelry, any of the gifts that the Chatan wants to buy for his future wife. Shouldn't do that once Rosh Chodesh Av starts. Leave it for afterwards. If, however, the Chatunah is happening right after Tisha B'Av, then you got to do what you got to do. Do whatever you can to do it beforehand. But if it falls in Rosh Chodesh Av and you remembered, oh my gosh, I forgot to buy this thing, or I forgot to buy the tie, then you could do it. Other people, not just regular people, even not Chatan Kala, also should minimize buying things that bring them simcha. כגון, תכשיטי זהב וכסף, שעל פי רוב רגילים לקנותם לכבוד החג או מסיבה אחרת, like buying jewelry for yourself, buying a new suit, things like that, you should not buy once Rosh Chodesh Av starts. אולם אם יש צורך בדבר, if you need to buy that gold chain, because if you don't have it, something might happen to you or whatever it is, then okay, fine. Then you could do that. מותר לקנות כלים או רהיטים חדשים להשתמש בהם בביתו. Regular utensils that you need to buy for your home to use, you're allowed to do that. מכל מקום, מכונית חדשה שהשמחה בה היא גדולה מאוד, a new car that has lots of simcha when you first buy a car. Because I know like a lot of Persians told me like, well, when we buy our new car, we buy like 2 cases of eggs, and we load the front tires and the back tires with eggs. We go backwards and forwards. I mean, we're breaking eggs all the time with these cars. I don't know what these eggs are, but anyway, it brings a lot of simcha. So cars, you shouldn't buy once Rosh Chodesh Av starts. You shouldn't buy the car. However, if you need the car, letzorech parnasa, like it's your work car, you need to get to work. Something happened. Your lease is up, right? Like it happened last week. Someone asked me, my lease is up. And now I can get the other car. I couldn't do it before because then I had to pay for 2 leases. Then, okay, what are you going to do? What am I going to tell you? Amen. Okay? Then you got to do what you got to do, right? But definitely my suggestion is if you do get that new car during this time, maybe try to minimize using it for now because it brings simcha. And if you can't and it's just for work, just go to work and come back, right? Definitely start the use of the car with a mitzvah. The first time you're going to use it, do a mitzvah. Give somebody a ride somewhere. Go to shul the first time you use the car. Anything we always get the first time, you should try your best to use it first time for a mitzvah. I remember someone in my family once got a new credit card. And he wouldn't use it. And I was like, he's not using it. Finally, we were somewhere and someone was short on money. He's like, aha! He used the credit card the first time to help someone with the rest of the money that they needed. He said, I was waiting to use my... That's how a Jew has to think. Begin everything on the right foot, doing a mitzvah. That's the beauty of being Am Yisrael. Always try your best to do good for others. That's the beauty of it. Did you have a question? Yes.
What if you want to buy new clothing like this week?
Like Zara's going out of sale.
Let's say, for example, let's say if you're in like the health and fitness field and you want to buy like exercise clothing.
Okay.
And you
Oh, well, right now, Rosh Chodesh will start next week. Will be Rosh Chodesh, not this. Yeah, this week you're okay with those kind of clothing. Yeah, for sure. If it's on sale, and you're going to lose out on the sale, you can buy it and leave it and use it later. You understand? It's best not to, but if it's something you're gonna lose out on, okay. It's something that special. לא יקנה בגדים חדשים, אף שאינו לובשים אלא לאחר תשעה באב. So he says here, new clothing after Rosh Chodesh, you should not buy even if you're not gonna wear them until after Tisha B'Av. אבל מותר לקנות בד if you want to buy parche from downtown. You want to buy fabric from DTLA from downtown to use it for something. That you could do because you want to sew something after Tisha B'Av. That's fine. Shoes. You should not buy new shoes because even if you're not going to wear them until after Tisha B'Av, you shouldn't buy new shoes. However, if you want to buy like fabric shoes that you want to use for Tisha B'Av itself, because you can't wear leather, then you could, or dampais or whatever, that you could do. Okay, so we'll hold it here for this part.